World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
This is so dangerous. You are risking not only your life, but also my life.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
The rain certainly didn't take the edge off of Kyalami last time the drivers took on the ACC Sprint Series here on World Pro Racing. As a matter of fact, the rain came just in time to spice up the race just a little bit more, where drivers had to force themselves to pit in either on wet tyres or to start the race on wet tyres on a relatively dry track. It might not be that difficult this time around for the drivers, but what challenges them here tonight is the legendary track they're about to break onto, Monza, situated 9 miles away from Milan and raced first all the way back in 1923, almost a century ago. And of course, it only took 100 days to build the circuit, not in its current iteration, but back in 1923. And it was originally halted because there was a lot of trees that had to be felled in order to build the track. Nevertheless, the Temple of Speed was built, and it's remained one of the most difficult circuits to master. Yes, there's long straights, but there's very slow chicanes filtered and sprinkled around the circuit. Welcome along then to World Pro Racing. My name is Kieran McGinley, and I welcome you then to the Assetto Corsa Competizione Sprint Series, and a big thank you as well to our sponsors in AMD, HyperX, GT Omega Racing and Thrustmaster, as well as Gaming Malta and visitmalta.com. And wherever you're watching in the world, if you're watching us on the Esports Television Network, if you're watching us on Motorsport TV, on TVM Sport and on The Race, a very warm welcome to you. And if you're watching on Facebook, on YouTube and on Twitch, don't forget as well, keep those comments coming in and keep us updated about who you're supporting in the race tonight. We jump over to practice then, and as you can see, Tinko van der Velde is currently at the top of the standings. At the moment though, he's third in the overall standings coming into this round. We should probably go through those before we get started. Harry Spears is your championship leader on 176 points. He comes in off the back of not finishing off the podium once so far. In fact, going far as saying he hasn't finished lower than second all season so far. The last 2 rounds, he finished at the top of that podium. 2 wins on the trot. He'll be looking to make it 3 out of 3. Tinko van der Velde then currently leads the way. He's third place in the championship on 148 points. Won the very first round at Laguna Seca and has been, well, it didn't go well for him when we went to the last round at Kyalami. The rain caught him out and he found himself in a little bit of trouble. The number 66 Ferrari finished 8th place last time out, and that broke the streak of podium runs he had in the Assetto Corsa Competizione Sprint Series. So he will be looking to bounce back and quickly to get himself back into the running of this championship. It's Czarnecki who returns then. He's now into 3rd place, and Czarnecki, who missed the last round, will be looking to get even more points on the board. He finished 6th place at the very first round at Laguna Seca, and we hadn't seen him since. It's a welcome return then for the Polish driver as he takes to the track and currently in 3rd place. It's Richard Schäfer then in 4th place, and if you missed out at Imola and all those rounds ago, he and his teammate, I should say, came together. And luckily they've buried the hatchet. I'm told reliably by our fellow commentator Nico Hillebrand that they've buried the hatchet and they've moved on from it, and they're racing again tonight. 15 drivers will take the start of this one, and of course we had a little bit of a clash then with the SRO series. That a lot of the drivers were alluded to and decided to race in that instead. So big points on offer for those who maybe might not necessarily get these big haul of points in the series as we head to the final rounds at Bathurst next week. As there you can see Tinko van der Velde flashing the lights. He knows we're watching him with just over 10 minutes of free practice to go. And pulling to the right-hand side of the track, there's Oscar Saristo then in the Nissan in the number 97 SOP Motorsport car. Making his way now through the Ascari chicane, onwards then towards the long right-hander of Parabolica. And van der Velde still there on the right-hand side, just looking for a little bit of space out on track. It's great to see that the top two separated by less than 1/10 of a second. Saristo then making his way now through that legendary corner of Parabolica and onwards towards the start-finish line. Currently 10th fastest in this session so far. He'll move up to 7th fastest in this practice session, and the Finnish driver just over a second off of the pace setter in Tinko van der Velde. Van der Velde comes here in really good form. If you missed out on the GT4 series last night, you missed out on a great race. Van der Velde taking the win in that one, so he's looking to enter this series once again with another win. And as I mentioned before, he did win the first round of the Assetto Corsa Competizione Sprint Series at Laguna Seca all those weeks ago, and hasn't won a race in this series since. He'll be hoping to change that tonight. Regan Mitchell then in the number 69 Simsport Racing Lamborghini has finished in the top 10 consistently in this series so far. A 10th place at Laguna Seca, a 6th place at the second round of the series, and then another 10th place when we headed to Kyalami last time out. And Kyalami really shook up the order because you saw Sheldon Muscat finish in 2nd place. That's his first podium of the series. He was absolutely delighted that he got the strategy right and he got the weather call absolutely spot on, and it would shake up the order for the rest of the field as well. Just over then 8 minutes and 50 seconds to go as we watch on for Regan Mitchell making his way through Parabolica. Such a legendary corner this one. Back onto the power and that screaming Lamborghini. It's home then as he heads towards the line. Regan Mitchell currently 5th fastest in this practice session, stays 5th fastest and not very far off of his personal best time, only 6 thousandths of a second. That's pretty consistent if you ask me. Gerli Kinsabo then finished 6th place at an eventful Kyalami last time out in the gifted racing team Honda. The Hungarian is looking to see if he can get even better than that. He was relishing the fact that there are fewer drivers and drivers racing in other series today. He said one more position every time there was a driver that said they couldn't attend. -1s all the way through. So he's looking and hoping to take full advantage of the many points that are on offer here tonight. And don't forget, if you fancy getting behind the wheel here at World Pro Racing, we'll be very happy to have you. Our next event then is the Giro Series at Zolder, Thursday the 22nd of June. Grab a friend, get behind the wheel, we'll go racing at Zolder then and see who comes out on top. We had a very successful 3-hour event just a couple of nights ago. So successful, in fact, that the Giro Series is going to remain a staple on the calendar. And as well as that, we've got the AMD GT4 Championship on Thursday the 24th of June as we get to the penultimate round of that one. And don't forget as well, the Malta National GT3 Championship, the qualifier, it ends on Friday the 25th of June. Oh, and that is Saristo then getting all out of shape, coming out of Ascari and going backwards there along the back straight towards the legendary Parabolica bend. Artur Shadecki then in the Odyssey Racing number 44. We haven't seen him and that Ferrari since Laguna Seca at the very first round. It's great to have him back as he now makes his way towards the start-finish line to complete his lap time. Goes quicker then, 1:47.319. Doesn't change his position, but it draws him ever closer to the top of the table. Richard Schaeffer then in the Butler Powell Motorsport Bentley. The number 42 charging the way underneath the old banking, underneath the old oval circuit. And then onwards towards this Ascari chicane, this this left, right, left, whichever order you want. Preferably left, right, left, because then you'll actually make it through the corners here. Back onto the power we go, re-ride on board then with Schaeffer then, as he takes us on a quick tour towards Parabolica. And it's deceivingly narrow, this track, especially up towards Parabolica, all the way up into 6th gear there. You can see just touching onto 261 kilometers per hour, slowing the car down then through Parabolica into 3rd gear. You can see the car getting very light as you go back onto the power through Parabolica. Back onto the power once again as Schaeffer comes towards the line, and again he improves his lap time, 47.361, still only good enough for 4th place in this session so far. Fastest lap of this session has been set by one Tinko van der Velde, and nobody's really beat him in any sector so far. He's been pretty consistent all the way through, and someone is yet to get better than him. Harry Spears, though, I will say, 2nd fastest in this session, has got the better of Tinko van der Velde, going in towards the 1st sector at the least anyway. So he'll be looking to see what he can do later down the line. Riding aboard then with the Sidemax Motorworks Mercedes, taking us through the 2nd Lesmo, back onto the power then. Up for gears then, and you want to run longer gear ratios at a track like this, which prioritises the top speed. You've got to also make sure that your tyre pressures aren't creating the rolling resistance that will slow the car down and cause that friction down these long straights. But you've also got to have the car that will make use of these mid-speed corners going through Ascari and through the Lesmos especially. You've got to have the car that will make it all the way through. You can see Harry Spears, you can just see that blue headlight there flashing away at the car ahead, backs out of it and will go for another lap. Of course, it's only the practice session, he doesn't have to worry too much about it. And there is Shadecki then making his way in the Odyssey racing car in towards the Roger chicane, and those sleeping policemen hurt. They really do. They punish you for taking a little bit too much curb. So you don't want to take them too often here. So coming to the end then of our 15-minute practice session, we'll have 15 minutes of qualifying, which decides the grid for the 30-minute race. And looking at the weather, well, we haven't got, at least yet, the dramatic start we had at Kyalami last time out. 4-kilometre winds in a relatively southerly direction, with a track temperature of 23 degrees, air temperature of 21 degrees, relatively cool for the Monza track here. But no doubt the drivers will be making sure that their setups are at their absolute optimum, their absolute peak for tonight's race. As Jarnecki then in the home favourite Ferrari, making his way now on towards Parabolica. Ferrari, of course, have a huge history, a huge heritage at this Monza circuit. Of course, it used to be a lot longer back in the day, 6.9 miles it used to be, because it used to use the old oval circuit as well. And there used to be just walls down this start-finish straight that separated the two bits of track, one leading to the oval and the other leading to what was then the Curva del Lesmo and the Curva del Roger. Since then, they've been reprofiled. The Curva del Roger has become the Roger chicane that the number 69 of Regan Mitchell is going through. And the reprofiled Lesmos then take a bit more banking towards the apex of both corners to help the cars carry just a little bit more speed through. Harry Spears then in the Sidemax Motorworks car going through now the final corner and onwards once again to the start-finish line. Currently just under 700ths of a second separates himself and Tinko van der Velde. Make that 2.5 tenths now as Harry Spears goes quickest in this practice session. The first driver then into the 146 is a 46.8. Takes him to the top of the standings. Silver Pyramids then in the Ninko Racing number 23 Lexus, getting back onto the power out of the Rettifilio chicane and on towards the Curva Grande. Bit of banking towards the right hand side there. No worries here, flat out through the Curva Grande. Leading you on then towards the Rettifilio chicane, or sorry, the Roger chicane I should say. We've just gone through the Rettifilio chicane. A bit of a less narrow chicane than the Rettifilio, but no less challenging. on towards the Lesmos then. The first Lesmo making our way through then this long right-hander. Be careful not to take too much speed through. This is where you'll have to be careful not to take too much speed through. The second Lesmo deceivingly there to catch you out with that gravel trap on the outside as well. Ready to punish anyone who takes just the slight kilometre an hour too much into the second Lesmo. Bit of undulation then. You head through the Curva del Seraglio and then on towards Ascari then. It's left, right, left. You can see the car riding the curbs and you want to be as aggressive on the curbs as the car lets you, basically. And take all the pace you can. Onwards then we go towards the Parabolica. Corner so legendary that you have the Parabolica at the Hockenheim, the new Hockenheim circuit. Silver Pyramids then back onto the power. Going through the gears once again and onwards towards the start-finish line. Currently 13th fastest in this session. Crosses the line to go 12th fastest. Now 2.3 seconds off of that lead pace then that we're seeing from one Harry Spears. Tom Ottey in the brown Audi. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that name. It's absolutely true. It is a brown Audi in the number 70. Making his way towards the Lesmos. And that screaming Audi is back once again. What a racket that thing makes. It's absolutely glorious. Coming towards then the second Lesmo. Back onto the power we go. Through the Curva del Seraglio. Appreciate that noise for just a second. Coming underneath that old banking. Glorious sound. Onwards then towards Ascari then for Tom Ottey. He's currently 13th fastest in this practice session as the checkered flag has now come out. So the drivers will now get to finish their lap. But the number 12 of Naga up ahead will not get a chance to finish this lap. I think that's actually possibly Goncalves. Or it could actually be Naga then in the Ash 12 car. He's in the number 12 car, and that 12 car has been used by Goncalves. So that's going to catch me out at least a couple of times in this race, that's for sure. Anyway, Tom Ottey then coming around the final corner. Back onto the power and towards the start-finish line. What's this going to be then for Tom Ottey? And he goes then 12th fastest, 1.7 seconds. So not too bad then from the brown Audi. Silver Pyramid still on the charge then to improve his lap time. Let's see what he can do then in this one. On this lap, I should say, through the final corner. Only 11 corners here at Monza. Cover around about 5.9 kilometres and they go by in a flash. Pyramids then towards the start-finish line to complete his lap time. And he does go 12th fastest, taking just a couple of tenths there. A couple of hundredths of a second out of his best lap time to get himself just a little bit further up the order. That's our practice session done and dusted. The drivers now get to prepare themselves for what will be a hectic qualifying session. Lots of drivers will be trying to figure out what sort of tyre temperatures and tyre pressures to use going into this race. And also they'll be using their, well, they'll have to be using their heads to see which kind of aero they want. Do they want to try and make sure their car is as slippery as possible in a straight line and take full advantage of those straights? Or will some drivers put a little bit of aero on just to help them through the medium speed corners such as the Lesmos and the Ascari going through there? You do need that grip to help you through the corner, and in those medium speed corners, that's where the aerodynamics are going to be your friend. The beginning of Parabolica as well, and how early you can get back onto the power through the last corner is also down to however much wing you put on the car. It's all dependent on how the drivers think they're going to be doing tonight. Lots of distance these tyres will be covering as well, so Monza then is a deceiving circuit for the tyre wear. You go through these tyres a bit quicker than you realise, purely because of the distance you cover. As I said, 5.8 kilometres, 5.9 kilometres each tour of the circuit. It's a deceivingly long time when you think about it. And when drivers are doing this circuit in less than 2 minutes per lap, you can safely assume that we're going to get at least 35, 37 laps of racing here tonight. So the drivers are going to have to be careful. Well, that might be a bit too much. They might get 20 laps, 21 laps of racing here. And that's still a long distance. It's a long old distance for a 30-minute race. So the drivers will have to be careful as to how and when they use their tyres. So qualifying then is underway as Harry Spears makes his way through the Curva del Seraglio. He, in theory, will be the first to set a lap time in this session today. Vozarek then in the number 710 will be not so far behind in the Lamborghini. As you see then Harry Spears charging his way through Ascari and back onto the power we go then towards Parabolica. It's going to be a huge qualifying session for the likes of Harry Spears. It's going to be a huge session as well for the likes of Tinko van der Velde. Harry Spears has been the race winner in the past 2 races here in the ACC Sprint Series, and he's looking to make it the hat-trick. Here he goes then on a flying lap of the Autodromo Nazionale Monza. We ride aboard then with Harry Spears as he goes underneath the start-finish line lights. Still in 5th gear, staying in 5th gear, all the way now down in towards the Rettifidio chicane, hard on the brakes at one of the narrowest parts and tightest parts of the entire circuit. Watch the wheel spin on the exit as you now negotiate your way up towards the Curva Grande. Slight banking through this right-hander allows you to take even more speed through if you dare. Still on the power then, full throttle all the way up towards the Roggia chicane. Looking out on the right hand side for your breaker marker, about 120 metres before the corner. Be careful with the sleeping policeman, especially on the second part of the Roggia chicane. Easily unsettles the car if you take that the wrong way. Through then in towards the first Lesmo, down a couple of gears then, back onto the power using plenty of track on the left hand side to open up the exit of the corner. Be careful with that bit of grass on the left hand side going through the second Lesmo, can easily catch a wheel on there, and that's you understeering straight off the track. Through the Curva del Seraglio, and then you approach the old banking, fly straight underneath it as you then climb your way towards Ascari. This left, down the gears then into 3rd to take a little bit of curb then through the right hand and then through the left at turn 10. Back onto the power we go. Running wide on the exit then. Got to be careful about that one. Not only do you pick up a bit of gravel, you can pick up an invalidation. Straight back onto the power, and there you can see Harry Spears backs out of this lap time. There must have been an invalidation on the 3rd part of Ascari, but he will coast his way through Parabolica. He'll go for another lap anyway, and that will probably mean that this lap will not count, or it will not be a valid one for him to get himself up the order. But he'll come across the line then to take us and complete a lap of the Monza circuit. It's going to be Jack Noller who's the first to sell a lap time here in the number 30 Honda, and takes his stand at pole position, I will say that. But Tinko van der Velde has just displaced him at the top of the standings, 47.4. And we're already seeing then these drivers are on the money. We have seen 46s in the last practice session, so I'm expecting at least a mid 46 to be the qualifying time, perhaps even a low 46 to be the optimum qualifying time. We'll have to wait and see how it all plays out. Regan Mitchell then in the SimSport Racing number 69, back onto the power through Parabolica in that Lamborghini towards the start finish line. What sort of lap time can he set for his first tour of the circuit? It's a 4th place time of 1:48.015, which puts him then onto the 2nd row of the grid, at least for now. I'll have to check in on him and see how he gets on for the rest of this one. There's Harry Spears then once again in that Mercedes, in the Sidemax Motorworks Mercedes. Back onto the power then through the Curva del Seraglio. He's got the Porsche ahead of him. I think that's going to be Shikanami ahead. It is going to be Shikanami as she makes her way through then in towards the next couple of corners. Harry Spears negotiating very well, actually, going through Ascari. As there you can see Harry Spears again on the power. He goes. Might get a slight bit of tow as well from Asuka Shikanami ahead. That might help him actually down these long straights. Any bit of tow you can get, you will absolutely greatly receive. Towards the start finish line he will go. And what lap time will this be from Harry Spears? Is a 46.7, straight up there. 0.6 faster than Tinko van der Velde. Amazing lap time then. There's Oscar Langley Shikanami, World Pro Racing's first female driver, if I'm not mistaken. Currently 11th fastest in this session as she exits out of the first chicane through. Then we go in towards Curva Grande. And here, flat out through there, no lifting whatsoever. Going through Curva Grande and then on towards the Roggia chicane. Applying the anchors as we make our way through. Shanecki now goes up to 2nd fastest, just over half a second back from Harry Spears. Shikanami making her way now in towards the first Lesmo. Back onto the power. Slight bit of curb on the inside there. You can see she didn't use as much track on the outside as we've seen the likes of Harry Spears used. As she does there for the second Lesmo. Through then the Curva del Seraglio. Underneath the old banking and the old track. It's gone into disrepair, unfortunately, the old banking, but with a huge banking at its peak. It's around about 32 degrees banking, I believe, is what I'm told. Maybe even steeper than that at its very peak. Shikanami then making her way all the way up towards Parabolica. Picking out your breaker point here is so essential. It's just as essential as the second Lesmo. Down the gears we go. Just waiting patiently to get back onto the power, find the apex, and build up the speed towards the start-finish line then. Shikanami currently 13th fastest in this session. And improves her lap time. Stays 13th fastest though. Czarnecki then in third place. But look at that. Look who's just gone to the top of the timings. A 46.698 from Tinko van der Velde. Puts him now at the top of the standings. Game on between van der Velde and Harry Spears. Not to rule anybody else out, but those two are looking absolutely on it tonight. Let's see how they get on for the rest of the night at the very least. Going by their pace alone, they look like they're going to be the drivers to watch for the win today. Czarnecki coming towards the line. Well, don't rule out Artur Czarnecki just yet, Kieran, because the Polish driver has found even more time and puts himself within 0.3 of a second of Tinko van der Velde. Regan Mitchell then, currently 5th fastest, comes back into the pit lane. Janus Weiss then in the Butler Power Motorsport 271. Onwards towards the Lesmos then, through the first Lesmo. Guiding the car in and hoping that there's enough grip going through for you to handle the second Lesmo as well. Still a bit of banking, but as you apply the power out of the second Lesmo, the track almost goes away from you. And it's so easy to understeer going through there, where you apply the power just slightly too early. Onwards we go then towards Ascari. Winding our way through here. Very nice indeed. Looks confident through there, does Weiss. As he charges his way now upwards towards Parabolica. 6 minutes of qualifying left to go. Van der Velde is on provisional pole with Harry Spears in second place. Artur Czarnecki rounds off our top three with Sheldon Muscat up into 4th place. Weiss then making our way through Parabolica. Onwards towards that start-finish line, scrubbing off the least amount of speed possible. And goes 4th fastest now, 47.2 for Weiss. Puts him now onto the second row of the grid. Schaefer, his teammate, comes across the line, goes 7th fastest then, with a 47.616. That puts him just slightly ahead of that Honda of Jack Noller. Silver Pyramids then exiting out of the second Lesmo. Oh, sorry, entering now the second Lesmo. Back now onto the power from this helicopter view. Through the Curva del Seraglio. Underneath the old banking. And then onwards then towards that legendary left, right, left of Ascari. Taking the car through here. Lots of changes of direction and the change of which way the car's actually going. The shifting the weight of the car as well towards the corner. A real test of the car's mechanical grip through there. Silver Pyramids in the Estonian. Going through Parabolica, currently 13th fastest in this session so far. Back onto the power he will go. What sort of lap time will this be from Pyramids then? As he crosses the line, it'll be 12th fastest then from Pyramids and moves himself now up into 12th place. Harry Spears riding on board with him, the fastest man in the practice session. Currently though, Van der Velde has other ideas. As you see, Harry Spears, you see there that bit of opposite lock as the car's trying to slow down in towards the first Lesmo then, and even then twitching through the first Lesmo. Through the second Lesmo we go. Looks relatively stable through there as the car makes its way now through the Curva del Seraglio and towards Parabolica once again, up into 5th gear. As you're just waiting for that braking zone to appear. There it is. through 8, through 9, and then through turn 10. The car getting very light in the steering on Harry Spears going out of turn 9. And you'll see Harry Spears will just stay in 5th gear. He won't use 6th gear. He clearly feels he loses too much momentum by going into 6th in the first place, down to 2nd gear through the Parabolica, as Voserick now goes 9th fastest in the Lamborghini. Saristo up into 10th as well, as Harry Spears makes his way towards the line, and it's a 46.9, so he lost a little bit of time on that lap time, but he's still got a couple more. 3 minutes of the session to go then, as there is Szymon Voserick in the Leopard Motorsport Lamborghini, the number 710, onwards towards the first Lesmo. Track starting to warm up here. 25 degrees Celsius now is the track temperature, and as we're expecting this sort of sunny period to last, which should be fantastic, in sim time of 12 minutes past 10 in the morning, so you can expect the track to get warmer and warmer as the session and the race goes on. And that's something the drivers are going to have to be wary of as well. How much pressure do they put in the tyre to make sure that it's okay for the whole race? Kansaba then goes 9th fastest. The Hungarian in the gifted racing team Honda with a 48.1 puts himself onto the 5th row of the grid. Harry Spears, can he unlock that lap time he's missing at the moment? He's got Tinko van der Velde right behind him as well, and for Harry Spears, looks like he's fueled pretty much to the end of qualifying. He will do his best to make sure he gets himself up the order as much as possible. Through then the last part of Ascari, and onwards then we've got one of the Audis off the track. I think that's Tom Otti in the brown Audi. He's the only Audi in the field, having a moment at the exit of the Ascari chicane. Harry Spears then darting his way in towards Parabolica, as Jack Nolan now goes 6th fastest, 47.4. Saristo now goes 9th fastest with that 48.0. Here comes Harry Spears towards the line, then crosses the line and takes back provisional pole position, but Tinko van der Velde is not far behind. He improves but holds on to 2nd place, so the pole position shootout goes on. And don't rule out Artur Czarnecki either. He's just over 4/10s back from that battle. He's out there in the number 44. He's just about to come towards the line. And let's see what sort of lap time he's going to set as he now approaches the line to go on to his final lap. Slower on that lap, I do believe. He was. So he'll have to go again and see what he can do out on track once again. It was a 50.2 his last lap, so he'd clearly backed off on that last lap. There's Richard Schaeffer then. Back onto the power on the exit of Ascari in that number 42 Butler Power Motorsport Bentley. Charging up towards Parabolica, so we've got the number 271 off in the background. That's Johannes Weiss, who's got Ascari wrong and finds himself into the gravel trap for his troubles. That's pretty much going to be his qualifying session done and dusted. For his teammate though, his qualifying carries on as he makes his way towards the line. 5th fastest then from Richard Schaeffer, 47.3, and he's still got time for yet another lap. First person to take the checkered flag will be then Szymon Voserick in the number 710 as the checkered flag falls in the session. And Voserick crosses the line then to go 11th fastest. And we'll hold on to that one for so far. Anyway, Jed Naga then in the number 12 car, making his way now towards the Ascari section then. And then on towards Parabolica. Just very patient to get back onto the power here as Naga makes his way through on towards the start-finish line. Can he improve on 12th fastest in this session? He does. Goes 9th fastest, does the Belgian then. And moves now up into the 5th row of the grid. Regan Mitchell then in the SimSport Racing Lamborghini towards the line. He will go currently 6th fastest in this session and now goes 5th fastest and pipping Schaeffer to that 5th place by 0.006 of a second. Schaeffer though is going to be the last driver to pretty much set a lap time in this session as Harry Spears, Tinko van der Velde all both pitted in. So clearly not happy with their final runs. So Harry Spears at the moment has that provisional pole position unless Schaeffer can find 0.748 seconds. Let's Let's see what he can do to at least try and get 5th place back. Maybe see if he can get ahead of his teammate for 4th place. Going through now, Parabolica, for the final time. He will be the final driver to set a lap time in this qualifying session. So long as he finishes it, he will finish it. Coming towards the line, Schaeffer currently 6th fastest and does go 4th fastest. Beats his teammate to that 4th place. And so will be the lead Butler Power Motorsport car in this race. Now, we do talk about teams here at World Pro Racing, but for the ACC Sprint Series, there are no team standings. It is solely the driver standings. So it gets into an interesting dynamic when teams, or I should say drivers, are part of the same team, but not really. We'll see what happens there. Well, we've got the race coming up very shortly, but we'll be back after these messages. We're almost ready to go here then for the first race, or at least the only race, I should say, of the ACC Sprint Series here on World Pro Racing, as the drivers then leave their spots to go onto the formation lap here to get those tyres warmed up, get those brakes warmed up as well. As you can see, Harry Spears on pole position ahead of Tinko van der Velde by the narrowest of margins. Artur Czarnecki in third place with Richard Schaefer in fourth, Johannes Weiss in fifth, Regan Mitchell in sixth place with Sheldon Muscat in seventh, Jack Noller in eighth, Jihad Naga in ninth, and Oscar Saristo rounds out the top 10. Gergely Kunsabo in 11th place, Shimon Vozarek in 12th, Silver Pyramid in 13th place, Tom Otti in 14th, and Oscar Shikanami rounds off our top 15. Well, if you've missed the previous two rounds, I can tell you at Kyalami, the rain really did hit at the beginning of the race. And it really did cause a headache to all of those drivers. Some of them started on the wet weather tyres. No sign of any rain whatsoever in this one, as the in-sim time is just 6 minutes past 11 in the morning. Track temperature is 27 degrees and the wind has slightly dropped from 4 kilometres an hour to 3 kilometres an hour, although the wind is now a more northerly direction. And of course, if racing is your kind of jam, then why don't you join us here at World Pro Racing, weekly casual and race special championship events, all at your fingertips. Visit worldproracing.com/events to find out when your next race will be. So, let's see if Harry Spears can make it a hat-trick of victories as we make our way on towards the Lesmo. Of course, a rolling start here in the Assetto Corsa Competizione Sprint Series. Hat-trick of victories would be absolutely the way Harry Spears would want to go. With no Luke Whitehead here tonight, this is his perfect opportunity to build the lead. Tinko van der Velde, finishing 8th place at Kyalami last time out, is keen to make that amends, as the drivers now make their way through the Curva del Seraglio. And on a formation lap, you get to realise just how long this Monza circuit really is. And I tell you, it is a long one. It's 5.793 kilometres. That translates to 3.6 miles, only 11 corners. And I say only 11 corners, but there's a very, very challenging aura around Monza. There's a bit of undulation in there, lots of top speed, and lots of slow speed chicanes just to add into the mix. As well as that, you've got Ascari and the Lesmos to deal with as well, these medium speed corners. And Parabolica, which starts off as a slow speed corner, but relies on the grip you have in the car as to when you can get the power down, when can you find the apex. So the drivers on the backstretch here towards Parabolica will start to get into formation anyway. Tinko van der Velde is keen to get some last minute heat into the tyres. You can see Harry Spears now trying to warm up the brakes as much as possible. A little bit of acceleration forward and then heavy braking. That puts some heat into the tyres as well, as the drivers start to get into formation as they make their way towards Parabolica. So Harry Spears will have the right hand side of the track, and in theory the inside line in towards turn 1. It's a very, very narrow part of the track. The drivers will have been told to take it easy going in towards the Rettifidio chicane. It's not how you start the race, it's how you finish it and how the whole half an hour unfolds. The race can't be lost on lap 1. It can't be won on lap 1, but it can certainly be lost. And someday I will get those racing terminologies nailed down. In the meantime, Harry Spears on the left of your picture, Tinko van der Velde on the right. We ride on board with the Dutch driver in the Sidemax Motorworks car. It's her Sidemax Motorworks 1-2. Artur Czarnecki in third place on the right hand side of the track. Richard Schaefer is the lead Butler Power Motorsport car in the number 42 Bentley. So Harry Spears will control the pace then and control the field up towards the lights. When the lights go green, we go racing. They've gone green, and here we go. Harry Spears then jumps off the line and gets a fantastic start. He should move over now to try and get to the racing line. As there you can see, Tinko van der Velde jumps into the toe that big Mercedes creates. Down in towards the Rettifidio chicane we go. Lots of heavy braking. This is where we find out where the drivers try and warm up their brakes, as one car completely misses the braking zone there and has to go through the escape road. It's one of the Lexuses going through there. That could be Silver Pyramid going through, who's missed his braking point there. Harry Spears, though, got a good start. Good reaction there. Silver Pyramid is that Lexus that went straight on at the chicane. Schaefer, though, has got a good start. He's up the inside of Artur Janecki, then going in towards the Roger chicane. Bit of door-to-door contact as the Ferrari goes airborne over the curbs. Then the two Butler Power Motorsport cars want to find their way through. Schaefer gets the move done, and there you can see Weiss trying to find a move there as well, as Regan Mitchell fancies his chances going through the first Lesmo, as we're going too wide through here. Schaefer, though, gets the position. Janecki in 4th place with Johannes Weiss in 5th. Oh, that's one of the cars then going a little bit off the track. Then it's one of the Hondas there. I think that could have been Sheldon Muscat who found himself off there. If it's not him, it's Jack Noller. It's one of the GT Omega Sport cars, as they all now file their way in towards Ascari. Artur Janecki then falls down to 5th place then. He's lost 2 positions off the start, has the Ferrari, but at least he's made it through. Oh, that's one car that hasn't made it through. It's Tom Otte in the brown Audi, who finds himself off the track and has come straight back to the pit lane. And it would be such a shame to lose Tom Otte at this early stage in the race. In this early stage in the race, look at this. The top 2 have really broken away from the rest of the pack. Sheldon Muscat then in 8th place in the RPM Esports car. The number 36 Honda is under pressure from Saaristo then, as they make their way and complete the first lap worth of racing. As Gian Naga in the number 12 Porsche, well, solidly in the slipstream of the car ahead. Silver Pyramids then is going to have to go side by side with Gergely Consabo then, as they file their way in towards the Rettifilo chicane. The Hungarian wants the outside line into 1, given the inside line going in towards turn 2, takes to the curbs then. He's going to have a compromised exit. Silver Pyramids will try and find his way back through, as we've got cars off in the background. One of them is Artur Janecki, and it's carnage out of the Rettifilo chicane. Lots of cars caught up in it, Regan Mitchell being one of them there. And lots of cars, at least 5-6 cars caught up in that one incident. As there is Johannes Weiss then, having to defend from Gian Naga, who's catapulted his way up the field. And he dodged that incident really, really well. And he's found himself up the order here. Harry Spears, though, meanwhile, leading the way ahead of Tinko van der Velde. And Evra trying to extend his lead at the top of the standings. Remember, 60 points for a race win here tonight in the Assetto Corsa Competizione Sprint Series. And if all well and good, this could be a night that Harry Spears will really enjoy. So we've got a replay here of Tom Otte. Let's see what happened then going in towards Ascari. Oh, yeah, he gets tagged by the Lamborghini. I think that's Szymon Wozorek here. As Tom Otte, well, he went to the right-hand side. Whether there was enough space for the 2 cars there, not entirely sure. That would be one the stewards would have to have a look at later on down the line. And I'm sure that our race FIA accredited steward in George Muscat is certainly on the case. There's Asuka Shikanami then, 12th place so far. Regan Mitchell behind her as she exits out of Ascari. And just how damaged is that car? You can see there's a lot of front end damage. There's a lot of front end damage to the Soul Nissan in the field. Oscar Saaristo, as he's now being hunted down by the Hungarian in Gergely Consabo, as they make their way down the start-finish straight and complete another lap here at Monza. 58.4, of course, being caught up in that second lap incident going through there, as Shikanami going to the inside, makes her way, indicates into the pit lane. And I hope this isn't going to be another retirement for Shikanami. It's a good chance of some really solid points up through the field. Hopefully just back to repair some damage to the car. She clearly feels it's not really in a drivable state. Saaristo then clearly feels his Nissan is in a drivable state, or at least he can cope with it for now. There's a little bit of damage to the front end of that Nissan, but there is Gergely Consabo, who fancies a bite then. So let's have a look at what caused that little bit of a pile-up out of the Rettifilo chicane. We were going side by side then. Johannes Weiss on the right-hand side of your screen. Janecki on the left. Flipped around now. Over the curbs he went, so he got a little bit unsettled. Then it was door-to-door then, and you see Regan Mitchell gets to the inside there, and the camera angle's just not great there. And yeah, so one bite and then a second bite with another Bentley there. So that probably, I think that might have been Johannes Weiss again that he made contact with. So there was one incident that caused it, and then a second bite of the cherry just added to the miseries of all around. So we're down to 13 runners, unfortunately, in this race, as long as Shikanami gets back out onto the track. And I'm glad to say that she is moving in the pit lane and making her way back out onto track. Great to see, because this is going to be a huge amount of points that she could score here tonight. Saaristo then in 8th place, trying to hold off the next car. And that is Shikanami actually exiting the pit, so she's going to go a lap down. But she's going to have a little bit more of a drivable car, which I'm sure she'll prioritise. There is Consaba, then the Hungarian, relishing this one. He wants as many positions as possible. As he now goes side by side with the Finnish driver of Oscar Saaristo. You can see there the Honda. It just looks like it's not got a damaged front end, and that just means that he's got a much higher top speed going down in towards the Rettifilio chicane, and he takes away 8th place away from Oscar Saaristo. And Consabo's next target will be Jack Noller up ahead. That Honda looks relatively in good condition so far. Well, I have to say half a second between our two leaders in Harry Spears and Tinko van der Velde. That is going to be certainly one to watch as they both make their way towards the second Lesmo, looking back at the rear wing of Gergely Consabo, seeing if Oscar Saaristo fancies a bite of the cherry, going in towards the Roger chicane, just a little bit too far back at the moment. So this is one of the closest battles on the field, going through the first Lesmo. Back onto the power we will go, and through the second Lesmo, making sure you don't overrun the corner. That's the last thing you want to do in this race, is just throw away all of that hard work that you've built in to get yourself in this position. Well, the top two have certainly broken away from the rest of the pack, as Schaefer currently finds himself in 3rd place. The number 42, Richard Schaefer, but he had a great race at Laguna Seca, finished in 7th place and has finished outside of the top 10 at the next two 12th places in a row. Has meant he's fallen slightly off the way, but that's not going to stop him from trying to at least claim the podium here tonight. There's Naga then, who's currently ahead of Silver Pyramid, but for how much longer? Because that Lexus is looking right onto the back then of the Porsche. Moves to the right hand side of your picture, down towards the Rettifilio chicane, has the inside line, then the anchors are thrown on. He's now up into 5th place. And car number 69, so that's Regan Mitchell, is going to get a 15-second time penalty for an avoidable incident. So that's going to be added on to the end of his race. Of course, no mandatory pit stops required in the sprint series. So if he doesn't make a stop, it'll be added on to the end of his race. Naga, though, is not done with this position, as he now makes his way through the second Lesmo. There's Harry Spears then leading the way just ahead of Tinko van der Velde. And van der Velde on that last lap set the purple first sector. So he's clearly on it here. And look how much pressure that Harry Spears is going to be under. The two Side Max Motorworks cars, maybe teammates here, but they're not going to show that. It's a driver-only championship, and they'll both want to get as many points as they possibly can. Heading our way now up in towards Parabolica. Getting a good extra here is critical, because you've got the long start-finish straight to contend with, all the way down towards the Rettifilio chicane. Making sure that you can stay ahead is going to be crucial. There you can see Harry Spears at 47.349, 0.03 of a second off of his own personal best, which also happens to be the fastest lap of this race. Going through in towards the first chicane, back onto the power then, and you're not going to believe this, but Harry Spears and Tinko van der Velde on that last lap set exactly the same lap time, 47.349. They are literally matching each other for pace. And just a bit of clarification from the stewards that Regan Mitchell's penalty was for the incident between himself and the number 2 car of Oscar Shikanami. So that's what the 15-second penalty will be for. And we thank Mr. George Muscat in the stewarding box. He's all on his lonesome tonight. He's having to work double hard. Yeah, you can see working double hard is also Tinko van der Velde, who fancies his chances of getting into the lead of this race. Here's Consabo, who's really closed up to the back of Jack Noller. And in that free air, he set his personal best lap time, 49.1 from Consabo. Compare that to Jack Noller's 50.2. 9/10 of a second faster was the Hungarian on that last lap. 9/10 of a second faster in clear air is going to be crucial. Can he find his way through? You can see the picture-in-picture as Harry Spears once again finds himself under the magnifying glass of Tinko van der Velde as the two Hondas are trying to go side by side through the Curva del Seraglio as they now make their way onwards towards Ascari. Consabo fancies his chances, trying to go the long way round in towards the 8th corner of this track. Then side by side they will go. Jack Noller will now have the outside line. He'll actually take the racing line away, and Consabo couldn't quite get the move done there that he wanted, but you can see he's clearly confident of getting that move done, but it's just getting it done will be another matter. Jack Noller is not going to concede that position without a huge fight. Up towards Parabolica they will go once again, and we saw then Harry Spears doing enough right now to keep Tinko van der Velde at bay as they both now head their way in towards the Rettifilio chicane. Jack Noller taking a narrower exit, a shorter run if you like. Past the start-finish line they go. Jürgen Consabo picking up that slipstream now as they head towards the Rettifilio chicane. Looking now to the outside of the first corner then. Who's going to be the last of the late breakers? You can see Jack Noller just about slowing that car down in time. Brilliant defending from Jack Noller there. So confident in his own brakes there, in his own middle pedal. He's absolutely loving that battle between himself and Consabo, isn't he? And I think Consabo's enjoying it too. Silver Pyramids, though, has his hands full as he's trying to keep back Giet Naga for 5th place as they now make their way on towards the Curva de Lesmos through Lesmo 1 and then towards the 2nd Lesmo not long after that. And Giet Naga then fancies his chances of making it past the Estonian in the Ninko Racing number 23 Lexus. Through the Curva del Seraglio we will go. And there's at least 3 battles happening out on field. In fact, there's going to be 4 because Oscar Saristo and Szymon Wozerik will be a battle that we need to watch very soon. As Silver Pyramids, though, holds 5th place. The battle for the lead then still 4/10 of a second. As Silver Pyramids just making his way through. He got a little bit out of shape through the middle part of Ascari, and that might be the invitation that Giet Naga needs. Try and see if he can find a way past. He moves to the outside, then back towards the inside line, in towards Parabolica, but not quite close enough alongside to get a move down the inside done. He runs wide now on the exit of Parabolica. Got to be careful of that sleeping policeman. It can launch a car, catapult it into the air if you're not careful. And Jack Noller doing everything he can to keep the Hungarian of Consabo behind. Consabo tucks into the toe. Down the long start finish straight and then pulls to the left-hand side of the track. Again, side by side, door to door, the 2 Hondas. Jack Noller run round 1 going in towards the Rettifilio chicane. He's later on the brakes than Consabo and is able to take the apex away from the Hungarian. Behind them, Wozerik has got the move done on Oscar Saristo. 9th place for the Lamborghini. And he will now be right under the back of this battle in no time whatsoever. And you can see Consabo knows that now. The Hungarian trying to find a way past through the Curva Grande. Side by side they'll go in towards the Roger chicane. They've got to leave each other the room then, which they do. Just about millimetrically perfect then. As the drivers make their way through, still plenty of space given between the 2 drivers there, just about enough, and that allows Consabo to have the inside line going in towards the first Lesmo, and he does at long last get that move done. I have to say, Jack Noller had to make him work for it though. Great driving between the 2 Hondas there, gave us a really good battle. Silver Pyramids then under pressure from Giet Naga going up towards Ascari. Naga has to go the long way round. He might find himself out of shape out on the exit of 8, which he does. And Pyramids is able to stay ahead for at least another couple of corners. As now you can see then, going side by side on the entrance in towards Ascari is always going to be a problem. We've got Jack Noller, who's had a moment at the Ascari chicane. He's just about rejoining onto the track, but he's now fallen down to 10th place. Now, he was a slow-moving car. The white flags did come out to cover him. But Wozerik is now up into 8th place now, as he will look to try and get past Jürgen Consabo ahead. You won't believe this. There's still half of this race to go. We've had so much action so far. We still got all that action to go, including the battle for the lead. Harry Spears leading the way. Tinko van der Velde in 2nd place. And they've built a really healthy gap of at least 7 seconds to themselves. And Richard Schaefer, Johannes Weiss is in 4th place. Silver Pyramids in 5th. Vijay Naga in 6th place, Gergely Konsabo in 7th place, Shimon Vozaric in 8th, Oscar Saristo in 9th, and Jack Nolla rounds up the top 10. Let's have a look at a replay then. So this is Jack Nolla and Shimon Vozaric then going in towards Ascari. Oh, that's a clip then from the Lamborghini, and that sends the Honda with absolutely nowhere to go across the gravel. That'll be why then the number 30 of Jack Nolla found himself onto the gravel trap. Bit of contact between the two of them going in towards Ascari. Harry Spears then doing enough so far to keep himself ahead of Tinko van der Velde. But how long can he keep up this pace? The track temperature increasing again to 28 degrees Celsius. The wind staying at 3 kilometers an hour for now. And the track ever evolving. The weather staying absolutely beautiful over this Monza circuit. Of course, 9 miles away from Milan. Not too far away at all. Harry Spears, though, making his way now down towards the Rettifilo chicane for the 10th time in this race. Back onto the power we will go then. As through the Curva Grande they go. Tinko van der Velde still looking, sizing up an opportunity maybe to get a move done. It's not easy around this track. With the heavy braking zones that there are, going to very narrow parts of the circuit. So getting a move done is not easy. You've got to size up the car. You've got to plan the move at least 3-4 corners down the line. Through in towards the first Lesmo we will go. And again, Spears may be running slightly too wide for his own liking then. Through the second Lesmo, you can see there the Ferrari of Van der Velde is much more confident through the Lesmos. But he will have nowhere to put that car going down in towards Ascari. You see there Harry Spears defending the inside line going in towards Ascari. And he'll just simply take away the apex. And back onto the power he will go. And it will mean that Tinko van der Velde doesn't get the run he needs. But he might get the run he needs now because Harry Spears runs wide going through the middle part of Ascari. And Tinko van der Velde takes over the lead of this race. A mistake from Harry Spears has meant that the Dutchman of Van der Velde takes the lead away, going in towards Parabolica, and now onto the start-finish straight. Gia Naga, meanwhile, as well, trying to find his way again past Silver Pyramids. He can't quite do it yet. Let's see if Harry Spears is able to close back in to Tinko van der Velde, going down this start-finish straight, going towards the Rettifilo chicane. Not quite close enough there. So Tinko van der Velde then leads the race, and the Tifosi will be very, very happy with that one. So Gia Naga still 6th place, trying to find his way past Silver Pyramids, the Estonian. That's a battle that's been going on for some time, and Gia Naga, he's just got to make sure he keeps his composure. He knows he can try and make the move, and here is, we're going 3 wide because that's Shikanami in the number 2 car, as the 2 cars try and make their way through in towards the Rettifilo chicane. You see Naga then trying to take a better exit out of turn 2. It didn't quite go the way he wanted though. Can he close in on the Lexus then, heading our way through the Curva Grande and then on towards the Roger chicane. Up into 6th gear. Not normally used by the likes of Harry Spears. He's looking for it, launching a move down the inside in towards the Roger chicane. He's done hanging around, but can he make this move stick then? On the outside, still going side by side. Shikanami fancies her chances then of trying to unlap herself from these two, but backs out of it. Meanwhile, we're in picture of this battle then between Sheldon Muscat and that's going to be Jack Nolla. So Sheldon Muscat then in the RPM Esports car under pressure as they try and battle their way through the Roger chicane, but Regan Mitchell managing to hold on there to that position, at least for now. Gia Naga, meanwhile, has got that way past Silver Pyramids, battling through. And Naga then moves up into 5th place. That was a move that was a long time coming for Gia Naga. Little bit wide, a little bit squirrely on the exit of Ascari. That could undo all that hard work he's just put in to get ahead of the Lexus. Towards Parabolica we go once again. Silver Pyramids on the outside. Gia Naga on the inside. Pyramids going the long way round, trying to get a better run out of the final corner. He might get a better run, you know. Naga will have a shorter run to the line, but You can see the Lexus there has more track to build up the speed. He'll now tuck into the toe of Giednaga. The Belgian here trying to hold off. He's just worked so hard to get that 5th place. And Silver Pyramids wants to take it straight back. Last of the late breakers then in towards the Rettifilio chicane. Naga will have the outside line going in towards turn 2. Door to door there. Who gets the better exit? Out of the Rettifilio chicane in towards the Curva Grande. Giednaga will have the inside line. And he'll have the position for now then. So he moves ahead once again of Silver Pyramids. But the Estonian will not be done here. He will not be burying this hatchet just yet. Right onto the back of the Porsche then. Towards the Roger chicane. But backs out of it. No way through for him. Giednaga runs deep in towards the Roger chicane. Oh, there's contact between the two of them. And Giednaga into the wall then. Out of the Roger chicane. Did he close the door slightly too late? Hard to tell from that angle. But he'll fall down to 7th place. And I've just been informed by our lead steward then in Georgia Muscat, race director 2, Szymon Wozerik is going to get a 15-second penalty for an avoidable incident on car number 30, which was Jack Noller, and then not giving the position back. So that was at Ascari then. We saw the two cars come together, which sent Jack Noller off into the gravel trap. And that will be what that was penalty for a couple of minutes ago. But Giednaga, meanwhile, down the field. And that battle between himself and Silver Pyramids then, well, it's done for now. Still 8 minutes to go in this race, though. Tinko van der Velde leads it then, ahead of Harry Spears. And this battle is not going anywhere anytime soon, is it? Still less than 4/10 of a second between the two leaders here. In other news, though, Richard Schaefer is starting to close in on that battle for the lead of this race. It's marginal, though. If it keeps up with this, he still won't be able to catch up to the lead battle, but it gets him ever further away from Johannes Weiss. So in towards the first Lesmo we will go then. Harry Spears running wide on the exit of the first Lesmo in towards the second Lesmo. Harry Spears is so confident in that car, even going over those curbs. He just puts the power down where maybe others wouldn't. He goes onto the curbs where others fear to tread. And the simple fact that you could spin up the rear tyres. No such fears for Harry Spears. In through Ascari we go. And again, riding those curbs with confidence. Onto the backstretch then, towards Parabolica. And again, Harry Spears just has to stay in the tow for now. There's not a lot he can do. He's just got to try and bide his time now. With less than 7 minutes to go. Tinko van der Velde, we've seen before, doesn't make many mistakes when racing here at World Pro Racing. Harry Spears, his mistake has cost him the lead of this race, at least for now. Last lap times then, it's marginal between the two, but Tinko van der Velde was 0.05 of a second quicker than Harry Spears on that last lap. We'll have to wait and see what the lap time from Richard Schaefer is as he makes his way towards the line in the 271 car, or sorry, the number 42 car. And the gap between them, yeah, it's he's lapping 4/10 slower than the leaders at the moment, so he's starting to fall slightly behind. Consabo, though, set his personal best lap time on his last lap, 48.8, which, in fairness, is only 1 second off the leader's pace right now. There he is in 6th place. Now, the gap between himself and Silver Pyramids will be coming down because he's got himself, well, that's about 7/10 quicker than Silver Pyramids up ahead on that lap alone. If he could keep these laps together, 5th place could still be on the cards for Gergely Consabo. Tinko van der Velde and Harry Spears, though, looks like they'll be going side by side very shortly because they're heading towards Ascari now. You can see, not quite side by side, but nose and tail will be the way to describe that one. Through Ascari they will go. Who will get the better run out of here and on towards Parabolica? You can see there, Tinko van der Velde trying to break the toe. Going up towards Parabolica. Will the Mercedes try a move? Yeah, you can see Tinko van der Velde feels the need to defend then up towards Parabolica. Through we go. And you'll see then Harry Spears tries to take a different line to try and get the power down earlier. Is that going to work, though? Because Tinko van der Velde seems to have track position for now and looking really good for this one. You can see 47.6 was his last lap, but Harry Spears on that last lap set a purple sector 1. No wonder he closed in onto the back of Van der Velde so quickly there on that lap, because he was 2 tenths faster through the first sector alone. Last 4.5 minutes of this race then, plus the end of the lap the driver is on, at least the race leader is on. And Tinko van der Velde just has a couple of laps to hold on to this one. He's been doing well so far, knowing exactly where to place the car, knowing exactly how Harry Spears can drive. And this is another inter-team battle. It's what makes it so interesting, because you learn how other drivers in your team are and how they drive and what their optimal lines are, what their setups can be, and you start to learn more and more about the driver. So when it comes to inter-team battles, in theory, you're going to be one of the best drivers in a position to have a really good battle with your teammate and at least get the upper hand. But Van der Velde underneath the old banking then towards Ascari. There we go. Consabo 2 tenths quicker than Silver Pyramid on that last lap. As there you can see Harry Spears running very wide onto the gravel there. He'll lose quite a bit of time for that one, as the drivers then charge up their way towards Parabolica. And a Ferrari leading at Monza. That's stuff you cannot write. Through in towards Parabolica we go, and Harry Spears is struggling here. I wonder if he's starting to struggle with his tyres. It's a long distance that these drivers have covered so far. 15 laps completed. We're on to the 16th one, so we'll get 17 laps worth of running so long as this pace stays the same. And if you do the maths then, well, we're doing nearly 6 kilometres per lap at this track, give or take 0.3 kilometres. So in a sense, the drivers are doing, you know, they've done on those tyres so far quite some distance. Tinko van der Velde though leading this way. They've done about 90 kilometres on these tyres. It's a fair old distance to run, but heading our way up towards the Lesmos. Just over 2 minutes left on the clock. We'll probably have this lap and the next lap to go of this Assetto Corsa Competizione Sprint Series here at World Pro Racing. And looking at the form book, well, Tinko van der Velde finished in Kyalami in 8th place, where it was a rain-affected session caused chaos in the race. Those to take advantage were the likes of Sheldon Muscat and Gagli Consabo as well. Tinko van der Velde was one of those that suffered, as again the Mercedes runs wide on the exit of Ascari, and I wonder if his tyres are starting to fade. On the last lap he was 4 tenths slower than Tinko van der Velde. 4 tenths in that last lap alone. He did make a mistake, but that could be a combination of tyres giving up, and that will lead to more mistakes as the track temperature has increased to 29 degrees. Van der Velde then crosses the line. He'll start this final lap of the race. And now making our way down towards the Rettifilio chicane. Harry Spears 2 tenths, or around a tenth and a half quicker than Tinko van der Velde on that last lap, as the drivers then make their way in towards the Rettifilio chicane for the final time this race. Back onto the power they will go, and if there's one thing Tinko van der Velde can do, it's hold on to a lead. He knows exactly where to place the car. He's been showing us that for the last 15 minutes, where to place the car, where to angle the car, what lines to take. He's been doing it time and time and time again. Through in towards the Roger chicane then. Through we go. Van der Velde hanging on to these tyres. It looks like the Mercedes here is just maybe chewed through just a little bit too much. Back onto the power we will go, and yeah, you can see Harry Spears is really starting to struggle now on those tyres. That's just going to be a little bit more comfortable then for Tinko van der Velde through the Curva del Seraglio. Onwards then towards Ascari for this final time here in the ACC Sprint Series on World Pro Racing. The form book stated that Harry Spears had the last 2 victories in his back pocket. Hasn't gone his way today though, because Tinko van der Velde in that number 66 Ferrari Missed out on the podium at Kyalami. He finished first at the very first round at Laguna Seca, finished third on the podium at Imola at round number 2. Through the final corner at Parabolica, he will go back onto the power for the final time then. And Tico van der Velde in the Sidemax Motorworks Ferrari wins at Monza and takes his second win of the series. Harry Spears will come across the line in second place. A very respectable drive from Harry Spears in that number 285. And Richard Schaefer, has he run out of fuel? Because there comes Johannes Weiss. No, he's just putting on a photo finish. Had us for a moment there, had me for a moment there, but Richard Schaefer crosses the line in third place. Johannes Weiss in fourth, getting a photo to top it all off. Silver Piermitz then coming towards the final corner. He's got himself a 5-second penalty. So Kunsabo is going to inherit that 5th place. The Silver Piermitz, the Estonian, will cross the line. He'll get 6th place at the very least. And crosses the line to finish 5th out on track. But Gergely Kunsabo will cross the line. He'll grab that 5th place with both hands. He was saying that he wanted to get as many positions as possible. Lots of -1s in the driver's chat going into this one. And he's certainly done a really, really good job then as he crosses the line to take 5th place. Really good drive from him. That's his best finish of the season as well. 6th place at Kyalami, 5th place here at Monza. Sheldon Muscat, who finished 2nd place at Kyalami, will come across the line to be the last of the finishers on the lead lap, with Asuka Shikanami finishing in 13th place and a lap down. Non-finishers, Sharnecki and Tom Otti there to end the session. But there we go then. Tinko van der Velde takes his second race win, I should say, of the Assetto Corsa Competizione Sprint Series and breaks the streak that Harry Spears really wanted. That mistake from Spears meant that he finished in 2nd place. And all it took was that little mistake from the Mercedes driver, and it found himself into that 2nd place. It's going to be Schaefer who rounds off the podium places and getting a photo finish with his teammate, Johannes Weiss. Fooling me into thinking he'd run out of fuel, but he hadn't really. He was just getting the camera ready for the 2 cars crossing the line. But he grabs that final podium position. Well, that's the race done, that's for sure. And we had some great racing out there. Lots of battles for all those positions out there. We were looking even at a battle for 10th place at one point in that race. There was just so much action going on. Gergely Kunsabo as well, grabbing his personal best finish in the series of 5th place. He was saying as well that he wanted all those positions, and he will be delighted with that one. I'm very glad to say we've got the 3rd place driver in that race in Richard Schaefer. Richard, can you hear us?
Yes, hello.
Richard, so glad to have you along with us. A really good result for you. First podium of the season. How was that for you?
Well, let's say I'm happy at the least, right? Because we had the pace to finish on the podium, or at least top 5 in all the races along, but just had very huge bad luck all the time. I made the mistake in Imola, which cost me and Johannes the race. So yeah, I'm definitely glad we got P3, P4 this time. Many points for the championship. So yeah, good results. Yeah.
Fantastic. And I just want to talk through the incident at the exit of the Rettifilio chicane very early on in the race. Talk us through your point of view, really.
Well, I was going side by side with the Ferrari, and I was like 1 car length in front of him going towards the chicane. And I thought, well, I have the inside. I can brake a little bit earlier just to make the corner on the inside, just to give him the room on the outside in case he tries to make a dive, which he did. So we were going side by side then. But what I realized, through the chicane, he was right next to me. I had to give him a bit more space. And I think that was not working as I would have liked. So we touched each other. And yeah, I think he had to drive a bit over the curb on the inside, which was a little bit of my bad. But in the end, I think it was a racing incident because both of us tried to have the nose in front through that corner. So yeah.
And yeah, I mean, you got some really good points on the board here. The last round takes us to Bathurst then. How do you prepare for such a high-speed track and then getting towards Mount Panorama? How do you prepare for that one?
I think the best preparation is to get used to the right-hand drive on the Bentley again, because we're very near to the walls all the time. But once you get used to that, the Bentley is a pretty good and stable car for the mountain, and yeah, we aim for a top 5 finish then as well.
Well, we'll see how that conspires later on in the month. Of course, next week we'll head to Bathurst for the race. Richard, it's been a pleasure to talk to you. Congratulations on your 3rd place. This floor is yours for any shout-outs, any sponsors you'd like to mention.
I'd like to mention René Butler. Thanks for providing, obviously, the team for us. And OMP is one of our main sponsors. Yeah, Butler Power Motorsport, best team.
Best team, yes. Well, yes, I've got to give them a shout out, otherwise they will be disappointed in you. But Richard, it's been a pleasure to talk to you. Congratulations on your 3rd place, and we'll look forward to seeing you at Mount Panorama.
Thank you very much. See you then.
And we have our 2nd place driver as well in Harry Spears. Harry, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Harry, well, talk us through that. Your streak ended at Imola, at Monza. Couldn't get the hat trick, but 2nd place. Talk us through it. How are you feeling after that one?
Yeah, it's really good. Obviously, it'd be nice to get the win, but it's not like it's going to affect the championship standings too much. Yeah, it was a bit of a shame because the Merc just has such the old Merc especially, just has such a small sort of margin for error through Ascari. So you have to, the perfect line is to sort of straddle the curves, and it opens up the corner a lot more. But the trouble is, there's about a 1 foot window where you can sort of get that perfect. And if you get it wrong, what happens to me happens to you. Car just launched itself into the air. So yeah, I clipped that slightly wrong. So obviously dropped that P1. But yeah, other than that, it was just a case of following Tinko. Yeah, well done to him. He had a really good race today. Really consistent.
And of course, after this race, your championship lead stays intact. Of course, no Luke Whitehead in this race. You extend your lead at the top of the table. Going into Bathurst, can you wrap it up?
Yeah, I hope so. The Merc's 2nd best, I'd say, around there, behind the NSX. So I'm hoping for a 3rd win of the season next time around. Yeah, fingers crossed.
And we heard Richard Shever there talking about the right-hand side of the Bentley, having to get used to being so close to the walls. I mean, how are you preparing for that one? You've come from Monza, which the walls are relatively far away, to a track which really does have no margin for error.
Yeah, it's not too bad for me, really. I find Bathurst is really sort of formulaic. So I think the walls help me in a way, sort of take the same lines each race. And the thing is, I've driven the Mercedes so much. I've got quite a good sense for how wide it is. But yeah, it's always so easy to hit the walls around there and get a bit of damage. So it's going to take a lot of practice, I think, to get back in tune with the track.
Well, a lot of practice indeed, but you said you've got many hours in the Mercedes, so let's see how that goes. Harry, the floor is yours for any sponsors, any shout-outs you'd like to make.
Yeah, I think for this week, Jordan Grant Smith, who's been egging me on a little bit. And then I think, as always, Max Motorworks, my team, for all the support.
Well, great stuff, Harry. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. Congratulations on your 2nd place, and we'll look forward to seeing you at the mountain.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.
And last but not least, of course, is our race winner in Tinko van der Velde. Tinko, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can.
Tinko, talk us through that one, because you had a good battle with your teammate then, eventually taking the race win. That must have been really good after what was not quite the greatest race at Kyalami.
Yeah, Kyalami was such a shame, so happy to be able to win this one. It was not the easiest, but luckily my teammate made a little mistake, so I could get past, because behind the Merc I had a lot of trouble keeping the car straight. It was sliding a lot. So every time I came close, I just made a little mistake and couldn't really attack him on the straights. But yeah, then he made a mistake and I could get past.
And of course, with no Luke Whitehead at this race, it means you draw ever closer and possibly move ahead of Luke Whitehead. We'll have to confirm the point standings later on in the week. But how do you think you can do in terms of the championship after Bathurst? Do you think you can be up there in the top 3, maybe even challenging for the title?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty confident in finishing P2 in the championship. I think Harry is just way too far ahead. He must make a big mistake and Bathurst crash very hard. And that's really my only chance on the championship. but I think Luke missing a race is now pretty far behind me.
And how does your car size up to Mount Panorama? Are you confident going into it?
Yeah, I like the Ferrari around there, but I don't know, Merc is really strong. The Ferrari is not bad either, so it's gonna be a fun battle.
Well, Tinko, congratulations on your win. The floor is yours for any shout-outs, any sponsors you'd like to mention.
First of all, for my team, of course, for the support, for the help, and also to my teammate finishing in P2. Really good job, and yeah, it was a fun race today.
Well, thank you very much, Tinko. Congratulations on your win. Always a pleasure to talk to you, and we'll look forward to seeing you at the mountain.
Yeah, thanks. See you next week.
And that will do it then. We've heard from our top 3 drivers then that Mount Panorama shouldn't be one you miss. The walls are never too far away. Going from a track that's totally high speed to a track that has one section of high speed followed by very, very narrow walls. Harry Spears says it's formulaic. It actually helps him. We'll see how he gets on next week for the season finale of the Assetto Corsa Competizione Sprint Series here on World Pro Racing. And wherever you've been watching us on esports television, motorsport TV, TVM Sport, you've been very welcome to watch us as well on the race. It's been a pleasure to bring this race to you, as well as on YouTube, on Twitch and on Facebook. It's been a pleasure to see those comments come through and get you involved in this racing action. A big thank you to our sponsors in AMD, HyperX, GT Omega Racing, Thrustmaster, Gaming Malta and VisitMalta.com. A big thank you to our FIA accredited race director and head steward in George Muscat, all on his lonesome in there tonight, but he did a fantastic job nonetheless. Of course, the crew behind the cameras in Justin Mifsud and Nathan Mifsud bring us all the action and the replays as well. For myself, Kieran McGinley, it's been a pleasure to call this race for you, and we hope to see you again very soon for the next race on World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
This is so dangerous. You are risking not only your life, but also my life.